Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sessions at a Distance. This is incredible to have this quality of musicians that are here today in this panel. I thank you all so much for joining us here. I want to start by saying welcome and thank you to Mr. Carmine Appice.
Hey, Dom. Hi, guys. How y'all doing? Good to see everybody. All my buddies.
And we also have a phenomenal player who I've had a chance to interview all of these great artists, but Darryl Jones, thank you so much for joining us.
Very pleased to be here with such an exclusive and amazing group of musicians. A quality of musicians. It's been a murder of crows, a quality of musicians.
Thank you so much, Darryl. Also, we have a dear friend, the great Gregg Bissonette has joined us.
Thank you, Dom. I didn't realize when I went to my engineer's studio that it would come up under his name. I'm now Frank Rosado. Sorry about that. But thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
We have down in our left-hand corner another great interview that I had done, which I was so thankful for. Nathan East, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're safe and well. It's great to be here.
And also now from Switzerland, we welcome the great, legendary Billy Cobham. Billy, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Yeah, Billy.
I haven't spoken to Darryl since Darryl was a teenager. Seems like that's how long ago it was.
That's true.
Wow.
Good to see all you guys.
And also joining us, as he always does, my partner in crime here, Paul Quin, entertainment attorney and producer and performer. Paul, thank you so much for joining us also.
Thank you, Dom. Hey, and thanks everybody for joining us. It's great to see y'all. I love y'all dearly, and looking forward to hear what you have to say today. Excited even.
I'm going to throw this first question out, and then I'll choose one of you guys to start taking it from there. But now during this time, we have this pandemic. We had gotten together at the NAMM show in California. Every year we would physically be together. Now this distancing has us doing these kinds of panels online, which is exciting and that it still works. But I'm going to ask you, how have you adapted during this pandemic and moving your career forward? And I'm going to start with Nathan East.
Well, first thing I have to say, I'm very grateful for this time that I have to spend with my family, because had it not been for this, I'd be on the road. I'd be all over Europe. I had a tour scheduled in Russia. We had Clapton dates all over Europe. So I'm grateful that for the first time in basically 40 years, this is the longest I've ever been home and the longest time that I've had to spend with my family. So
with that, Nathan, so how are you using your time, just in generally during the course of a day? How are you filling up your time?
I end up still pretty booked because I have a studio that a lot of people are sending me tracks to play on. So I've been doing a lot of that, as well as my son is home and he plays organ and piano and keyboards. So we got him a nice Hammond organ. So we've been playing for hours and hours a day and working up some material for a new duo album. So that's been a lot of fun as well.
Is this your son that you had on your recent solo album that played piano?
Yes, Noah East, and he's been featured on both my albums on duos, and we have so much fun playing. And I figure, now no time like the present to work up some material, and then in general, it's just great to be. I mean, I found rooms at my house that I didn't even know I had, so it's nice to find stuff, clean out some drawers, and go do a little bit of gardening, and just do kind of some regular things that I don't normally get to do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Carmine, what have you done now to just prepare yourself for this insanity that we're in right now?
Well, I moved here. That was a big move, a big job. Once we moved here, we were in the middle of mixing a new Cactus record. That took forever because we had to do it all by email. And I set up a studio that I'm in now, that I've actually done my first recording the Cleopatra in here. And I did the Modern Drummer festival thing in here. Getting product out, we're just releasing a new Vanilla Fudge album.
Well, that's great, Carmine. And I want to get into each one of you about how you're pulling all this off. I got to go to now, Gregg. Gregg, you've always stayed busy in what you're doing. How are you using your time now with being, secluded now in the California area?
Yeah, thanks, Dom. Well, like Nathan, I'm super blessed to be able to hang with I also have a Noah and a Mary, and Nate has Noah and Sarah. So I have a son, Noah, and he's home from Pepperdine, and my daughter, Mary, she's home from college. And so we're hanging a lot. And I luckily, right before, I'd say about 2 years ago, I started coming over here to Woodcliff Studios in Sherman Oaks, where I kept one of the Ringo kits all mic'd up, ready to go. And people send files, and then Frank records them and sends them back. Unlike Nathan and Billy, I'm not the engineer guy. I just never really did well with, do you have the latest version of Pro Tools? What Neve module do you have? Do you have this overhead mic? I said, no, I'm going to a place that I love where I can record, and Frank does all the tech work for me. So been doing a lot of stuff with people sending files from all over the world and playing on their stuff. I have a new drum school with the drum channel. It's called the Gregg Bissonette Drum School at Drum Channel. And I have a lot of students with that. That's keeping me really busy. And like Billy with the Dodgers, I have to say I'm a little embarrassed that over the last 5 years, because of the MLB app on my phone, because of my life cycle being right in front of Spectrum Sports, I have not missed one Dodger game in 5 years. And now we have Mookie Betts, so life is good in LA.
I've got to go to Darryl Jones. Darryl, you're in your studio right now. What are you doing now to utilize your time?
A few different things. There's some working on the score for a documentary that's being put together about me. A little bit of that, a session here and there. A little, people, the file thing, people sending over files and doing a little bit of that. A little bit of teaching. I have actually, probably more than anything, man, I've been trying to educate myself about how to stay healthy. So looking at lots of books and, figuring out, a lot of stuff, sugar and vitamin E and vitamin D and all of that stuff, and just trying to stay healthy.
Fantastic, Darryl. So tell me a little bit more about this documentary. What exactly is that?
Well, there's a filmmaker. This is a guy who co-produced a couple of movies with Oliver Stone. The Nixon movie and the Any Given Sunday movie. And if you guys know, that's like a football movie. It's like the behind the scenes football movie. So he told me that he had an idea for a kind of behind the scenes music movie or musician movie, but he wanted to start with just doing a basic documentary about me. He decided on me. Of course, it was his idea. I feel like there's so much more to do that before I need to do a documentary. But anyway, he decided, and you don't say no to such a thing. So we've been working on it, got some interviews from some pretty cool people, the Stones and lots of great musicians. And so since I'm kind of trying to get into the film score thing, he said, why don't you score your own documentary? So I'm working on it.
Interesting. Very well. Listen, from Miles to the Rolling Stones, I think there's a story there. Billy, let me ask you, Billy, you're now back in Switzerland. How have you adjusted to all of this with now the ability of not being able to tour? How are you dealing with this craziness now of being home?
Faina, my wife, and I, we moved. It was a scheduled move back to my home country of Panama with the idea that we'd probably come back in here at the Burn and start to do some touring. We had China and all of that stuff set up. Lo and behold, COVID hit. And we became tied down there from February until about the 26th of June. We couldn't go anywhere. Now, while that's happening, we still had to move into a flat, to a new apartment here in Bern, which we never had a chance to touch base on until we got here. So there were boxes, all of that. We had our hands full only in that, not to mention everything pretty much that I had planned to do was canceled or postponed. And that's following all the way towards the future now for this year. My first concert and only concert so far has been one in Krakow, Poland, which was in July. What was really wonderful about that is that I didn't even feel like I was getting back on the bicycle. It was just like, hey, this is an actual testament to the fact that it's been what for me now, I've been playing since I was around 8, 9 years old. When I walked into Manny's and got my first snare drum from Manny. And then, back on 48th Street. Is 48th Street? Yes, 48th
Yep.
Street.
Yeah.
And I went, oh man, it's been a while. Like a flash it's gone by. I mean, a lot of things sort of fall in the middle, but that's a sidebar. We won't get there. We won't go there. As I just sat down and started to play with musicians, I went, wow, I never thought about it like this before. And the beauty of it all is that when Dom and I are working together with the retreat, we focus on a lot of the stuff that all of us as I mean, this is what we do. It's our life. Every note, every step we take, every like ounce of air that comes in our body goes out. It's a note. It's a musical note in a way, and so we play that. That's our experiences. We're sharing that, Dom and I, at the retreat. This is how you play the most complex stuff that looks simplest at all. I mean, just to lay it down in the 2 and 4 and make you feel good and you dance a little bit, and because that's who you are. That's what you do. That's how it works. And so all of these things, I was thinking about that a lot, subconsciously, practicing my marimba, stumbling around like in a dark room with no lights, playing all the wrong notes. And in the process, ending up with something that I went, I never thought about that. So this is what I've been doing. And now we're back here, getting healthy. And like Darryl says, that's been very, very important. I'm happy to just have that right now. I'm good.
Nice, Billy. Well, we've done many of the retreats together where we've had many, many musicians of all instruments come by to get them together to play and actively understand what a rhythm section and what a band is, how to listen, how to play. It really needs that kind of reaction and in-person activity.
Really, absolutely.
This COVID challenge now with what they call social distancing, which really should just be physical distancing. We should not stop socializing. So, I mean, in the process, that all is going to come back in the course of due time for sure.
I'm sure. And just one little short thing. I mean, the beauty of it is the biggest thing is just, it seems so complex for lots of people who go to school and legitimately learn how to play. I mean, all the notes are in the right place, blah, 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 blah. But then there's that thing that's left out that's elusive. When you run into somebody like Lee Oscar and he picks up a harmonica and he starts to play. Cisco Kid was a friend of mine, and the rhythm section is just boom, 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 and it feels so good, And you realize that's the most complex thing that we could ever learn is how to play simple. And that's what,
amen.
That retreat is all about. That the whole thing about the retreat reflects just the music. Everything we do. When we get out, when we were younger, we just get out of bed and we never thought about it. Just to walk across, and get a glass of water. Now it's a pain for me. And I realized, man, this is pretty complex for being so simple. But there you go.
Well, it's great that there's a real, attention, like Darryl said, to our health. This is a very important time to take advantage of that. I got to go, Paul, you're still actively involved with clients and what you're doing. And how are you dealing with all this?
Well, I'm one of the lucky ones, really, because my work hasn't gone away. And in fact, it's increased because, and I think I've mentioned this before, but, most of my clients are musicians. And so they now have time to reflect on the things that they don't know and the things that they need. So I've had more calls over the last few months, than ever. But, it's funny, I'm right there with Nathan that, one of the great things about this is I haven't been traveling. So I've been at home. I don't remember the last time I've been at home. I haven't taken a flight since I came back from the NAMM show, and I came back from the NAMM show with COVID. So haven't been anywhere since then. I've been trying to lose weight and get healthy. And ironically, one of the reasons I finally needed to do that was Gregg rubbing my belly at NAMM and made me so self-conscious. I thought, that's it. Okay, I'm losing weight.
Did I do that?
Good one,
yeah,
Gregg.
You did. Yeah, but I love you for it anyway. But and so I've been, trying to get healthy, eat well. I'm actually down 50 pounds in 2 years. So I'm getting healthy, and I'm also taking the time to practice and, spending time with my kids. Emily was home from college. So, I got to spend 4 months with her. I've spent time with Gabe, who's just started high school. So there are blessings at the same time as there are curses, right? The type of work ethic that led each of you to get to where you are hasn't gone away. just because the work system has changed, and that, you know, y'all are still being as creative and doing as much work as you can. But God bless the day when we can all play with other musicians again in front of an audience. You know, let's let that happen. And just, you know, there is a healing quality to playing with other, there's a healing quality to playing, period. But there's an even greater healing quality to playing with others, and then playing with others in front of an audience. May that come back soon. Not just for y'all, but for the crew, the drivers, the roadies, the lighting guys, the caterers. Let's get back as soon as we can safely.
Well said, Paul. There's an entire industry out there that has been affected greatly because of the challenge that we have. And it's not just in the music industry, it has been every industry that we go down. So, but here's what's interesting is that the sessions has always been about trying to bring how, you know, artists continue their business skills even before COVID and now with COVID. So I'm going to go back. Nathan, how have you been keeping all this going? Have you been on the phone a lot? Have you been, you know, recording from your home studio? How have you been balancing all this?
Pretty much all of the above. And by the way, Paul, say hello to Emily and my buddy Gabe for me. It's always fun to keep up with their activities.
Thanks, man. You know I will. We love you.
And for me, as soon as this thing started, the first thing that came into my mind is like, for the first time in all of our lives, the entire planet is shut down at the same time, an even playing field. And so for me, the first thing I thought was, this is a perfect reboot for humanity, you know, for everything that you've ever wanted to do that you didn't have time for. This is your chance to get it going, you know. And so it's interesting to kind of see how the world has developed and how we've dealt with this, because to me, it's kind of like one of the biggest tests that God has thrown our way, you know. And I feel like although it's a huge test, it's a huge opportunity to me do a global upgrade, you know, a personal upgrade, a group upgrade. And then hopefully when we come back together, it's not even just going back to what we had, but it's a better situation. We'll be better human beings, more awareness of what the blessing that something we may have taken for granted. I mean, who knew you wouldn't even be able to shake people's hands, you know, hug people, play for folks. And the NAMM was one of the last gigs that I did. We had a fun gig with Earth, Wind, and Fire. These are the kind of things that this has taught us, that nothing lasts forever, and just really, really be grateful for every breath, you know.
Well said. You know, gratitude is a very, very important word to focus on right now. But I know, Nathan, you had said that you just did a recording date with Gregg, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, and that was actually yesterday. It was one of the first times actually getting back into a studio, and turns out the studio never really shut down, but everybody canceled. Prior to that, there was one date over at the Village. They opened up for a special session. Literally, they covered all the floors with plastic. When you went in there, they blasted you and take your temperature. You had to sign 2 or 3 pieces of paper saying, you know, that you've been tested and you're clean. And it was a big deal. Again, who thought that just something that we do every day of our lives going in the studio was going to be such a big thing, you know? So it was really refreshing to run into Gregg yesterday, and you know, everybody's telling jokes, and it's just like, wow, this is almost like it used to be.
Nobody knows more Rodney Dangerfield jokes than Nathan East. And you know, Paul was talking about losing weight. I went to the doctor last week. He said, "You're fat." I said, "I want a second opinion." He said, "Okay, you're ugly too."
And Eddie does his own rim shot.
Yeah. So, Gregg, what was it like? You guys, I guess, were in the studio with masks. You know, was it that?
Yeah. It's a great place called Stag Street Studios, where Nathan and I have worked for years. A great guitarist, James Hara, was playing, and we all had masks. The producer had masks. The artist wore a mask, and we all kept our distance and made music. And even when we went in the control room, we all, you know, listened, but, you know, far enough away. Believe it or not, this is going to make you laugh, but when we finish this thing, there's a great guitarist named Lyle Workman, and he called me 2 days ago. He said, "Hey, could you go down to, speaking of Nathan East, could you go to East West on Wednesday for a session?" I said, "Yeah, what kind of session?" He said, "It's a 30-second Del Taco commercial." Okay, let's go. And man, the amount of paperwork you have to fill out on your phone and all the stuff Nathan said, but the thing on your head, I'm going to be going there. You have to have it all filled out. Then you show them your phone. All your forms are filled out, but you can't send the form in any more than 24 hours ahead of time. So since the session's going to be at 3 o'clock today, I had to wait till like 4 o'clock yesterday and send it from my phone because they want to make sure in that 24-hour period before you do your session, you haven't been in contact with anybody with COVID, you're not sick. It's really pretty high-end Star Trek stuff, you know?
It really
You
is.
should feel free to blame lawyers for those forms, Greg.
Okay, Paul.
Say Paul
You can't blame nothing but the mighty Paul Quin. Remember that song?
Carmine, you stated that you're working on your album and keeping things going. How is that all working with the communication? You said you're emailing, you're listening to recordings. How is that all working out?
I've always been on the phone, emails anyway, but you know, right when this hit, we were just starting to mix a Cactus record, and it was unbelievable because the co-producer with me, Paul Warren, lived in Nashville. He was supposed to come into New York, and we were going to mix it at the studio on Long Island that we use, Randy Pratt's studio.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen anymore. So now we had to do the email mixing, you know, and that took forever, you know. But we got it done. Usually we could do it in like 3 or 4 weeks. It took months to do it this way, really, you know, because the guy would email it and send it to me, send it to the other guy, Paul, and then we listen to it, and then we send back, you know, fix this, fix that. And then by the time, you know, it took like a week a track, you know, we got 12 tracks, 13 tracks or something like that. And it took like 4 or 5 months, you know. It was unbelievable, but we did it. You know, I really enjoy, unlike Greg going to the studio, I have the drums mic'd up here, and I started learning the engineering from my brother, Vinny, who built the computer and all that. And he showed me how to work. I'm using Cubase, and I got a killer drum sound going here, and the drums are all mic'd up. Pretty easy, but I don't do any EQ, and it's pretty flat. And then I'll send it to my mix guy. My mix guy will make the drums sound fantastic. I'm producing this band called Kodiak, a young band from New Jersey. So they had a van, they had a trailer and all that. So they came to the house in Connecticut. They picked up my Slingerland, Pink Leopard Slingerland drums, and that sound great. We put it in the trailer. We put all the stuff for the dog in the trailer, suitcases, boxes. Plus we had a moving van, pick up stuff. So when we got here to Florida, we had 188 boxes to unpack. So it took forever. We unpacked it, set up the studio, and we've been renovating and fixing. Right now we have guys renovating the pool area. We got gutters going up. We got 3 or 4 different workmen companies here, plus the gardener and the pool guy. And so I'm hibernating here in the studio with you guys.
So Carmine, basically what it comes down to is, first of all, we need to have a high level of patience, because what was the learning curve like? Now, you were learning a whole nother level of mixing ourselves and all these wires we're hooking up and micing and lighting. What kind of learning curve is that?
Ridiculous. I mean, you know, we've been trying to get my second Focusrite into the system for 2 weeks, me and my brother. And finally, we determined with the Focusrite tech support that it was a bad unit. You know, I'm having fun doing it, you know, because what else is there to do? You know, I mean, we have, just like everybody else, we had a lot of gigs canceled, you know, between Cactus and Vanilla Fudge gigs, and me and my brother Drummer Wars gigs. My last gig was February 9th. After I came back from the NAMM show, we did 4 gigs with my brother. February 9th in New York City, that was it. And it's like weird. It is weird.
Carmine, what else happened on February 9th in New York?
February 9th.
It's the first time the
1964?
1964, Paul.
Oh, okay.
All right. Big date.
I didn't know. I wasn't, in those days, I wasn't a big Beatle fan, to tell you the truth.
No, who are you into back? Who are you into back then?
James Brown, R&B, James Brown, Wilson Pickett, Aretha Franklin, you know, all that stuff, all the R&B stuff. And the Beatles, you know, to me, they were very simple, and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I started getting it on the Revolver album.
Yeah.
The Revolver album was the album that we watched and listened to when we did the Vanilla Fudge first album, which was psychedelic as well. But that album was amazing, the Revolver. And then I started getting into stuff before that, you know. Now, all I listen to is the Beatle channel on Sirius.
Channel 18.
Yeah, all their songs are so great. You know, I've done, you know, one of those guest DJ things. They play some Vanilla Fudge reversions. You can't do that, funny enough, but I think our best version of a Beatles song is Eleanor Rigby, which is amazing. It's like 7 minutes long.
Wow.
And we captured the eeriness and the vibe of the whole cemetery vibe with the church and everything, you know, the eerie vocals. But they never play it. I think it's too long. 7.5 minutes long, something like that.
You got a John Lennon look right now with the glasses, man.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna go and John on us.
A little John. I usually put the sunglasses on, but I forgot.
I love it. I love it.
At my age, you know, I forgot it.
That's fantastic, Carmine. Darryl, you had mentioned that you were taking on some students and some lessons. What's happening with that?
I was such a little guy when I started playing. I mean, I was young. I was 9 when I started playing. 7 when I started playing drums. 9 started playing bass. But the guy who taught me, this guy Angus Thomas, who played with Miles for a little while after I played with, you know, in the period when I wasn't playing with Miles. I was his first student, but he ended up being a really good teacher, you know? And so these first 2 or 3 songs that he taught me, he really taught me. He didn't let me off the hook. He really made me play them, you know, play them correctly. So when other kids in the neighborhood started hearing him play, they were like, wow, he can play. Can you teach me? So it was not more than about 6 or 8 months after I started playing that I started teaching other kids in the neighborhood. And so I've always taught, and I really love it. And I love that feeling of when you are dealing with a student and you turn him on to something and he gets it, and he gets that look on his face like, oh, you know. And so it's just something that I've always done that I really love. And a life in the time of COVID, I do it on Skype now. So I've taken, I don't have very many students. I would like to have a few more. But yeah, it's just something that I really enjoy doing, man, and trying to separate the wheat from the chaff, you know, just try to, you know, direct a guy in a way that he doesn't have to do all of these different, you know, go down all of these roads that don't really lead, you know, to the direct way of playing. And like Billy was saying, you know, in many cases, trying to get particularly young musicians to just play simply. I don't know what it is about trying to learn a song where you're teaching somebody something, and I do it too. We want to speed up and play it. So just stuff like that, just, you know, real basic stuff, just trying to set guys on a good path.
So is there a way to contact you? Is it social media or a website that people can reach out to you?
You could go to my website, DarrylJones.com, and just, you know, leave a message, you know, leave an email, and we'll get in touch with you. Yeah, Darryl Jones.
I'm doing it right now.
What I do think about that sometimes. I do think to myself, I wonder, I was thinking, I met, you know, Alphonso Johnson a few years ago. He called me and asked me to do his speech when he was inducted into the Bass Player Hall of Fame. And first of all, I met him a couple of times over the years, but when he called and left a message on my answering machine, I literally kept that message for months. Like, hey, Darryl, this is Alphonso Johnson. I was like, oh. I've often wondered to myself, I would love to take a lesson with him. I would love to take a lesson with you, Nate, because I'm sure there are things that, and as long as, you know, I don't have ego about that stuff. Like, yo, man, well, how could I be doing that better? You know, that I'm sure that there's some stuff that I could gain.
Absolutely. We just, you can learn from anybody. And, you know, I'd love to sit down across the room and play.
Yeah, no.
Play together.
Yeah, no, man, that'd be great.
And make sure you have your mask on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
The only time you and I have played together was on the recording with Wayne Shorter.
Oh, right. Joyrider record. Yep.
Right.
Wow. One of the hardest records ever.
I'm telling you, man, I often think about that because you and me were playing bass lines and Priest was reading, of course, trees, not chord changes, not from Wayne.
No, exactly.
Him playing the bass lines And I always thought to myself, Patrice was playing better bass than me or Nate and playing keys at the same.
It's unbelievable. Well, we were all, Robin Ford was on there. Well, we were all in the music going, wow, my fingers have never done this before, you know.
That was great.
So do bass players get together, guys, Darryl and Nathan, do they get together the way drummers get together? Is there that kind of connection also in the bass world?
I think there is. I think that we do. Yeah, I think we do. Particularly, I mean, you know, I've been on 4 or 5 bass forums like this with some incredible musicians. One, Ron Carter and Anthony Jackson, with all of the young heads like, you know, me and young heads, not exactly young heads. In fact, I was at Bass Player Live, and Cat Dyson was overhearing a conversation with 2 bass players, where one said, "You know, man, what was that you did?" And the other bass player like stopped and said, "Oh, no, this is," and she looked at me and she said, "You know, that's a bass player thing." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "A guitar player playing something and another guy walking up to him and saying, 'Hey man, what was that you played?'" She said, "The guitar player would be like, 'Figure it out yourself.'"
That's right.
You know, so she said, I'm generalizing. She said, but it's a little bit different. Bass players, drummers, they tend to be a little bit more fraternal. You know?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Gregg, I know you're doing some lessons through Drum Channel. Just tell us about that. I mean, what Don Lombardi has done with Drum Channel is absolutely fantastic. He's always had fantastic musicians on there explaining. Just fill me in on what you're doing with that.
Well, about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to do a drum, school. And I thought, well, I'll just hire a guy to video it, a couple cameras. I'll hire somebody to, do the sound. We did it here for a while at Frank's. And then I'll hire an editor. And then I went, wait a minute. My friend Don Lombardi, who started DW Drums years ago, broke ground and has brick and mortar, a great place called the Drum Channel. And so Don just said, why don't we collaborate and you just do your school with me. I've been filming there for the last 10 years. I was showing Nate about it yesterday because Nate has a school with Artist Works and they're great too. And there's a few of them that are out there, but mine's with Drum Channel and I just love it. And anybody can go to Drum Channel and type in my name and Nate, tell them about your school and Artist Works, right?
Well, same. I mean, we both have a lot of students and with mine, you can do the video exchanges. So you send me a video and then I, kind of send a video back saying your fingers. It's like the ultimate social physical distancing, but it's a chance for us to one-on-one with the students and really just get into it. And that's again one of the things I always suggest: play slowly, slow it down, play with a click, lock it down with the groove. And because everybody. You turn on Instagram now and they're blowing you away with the speed.
Yeah.
But making music is really just as important as being really clever and fast and cool. So that's I'm having fun with it, and it's fun to teach because every time you teach, you learn.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea, man, with the video thing.
I got a call from a drummer named Billy Cobham to go do he was doing a drum clinic and he wanted a bass player. And I'll never forget going to State College and playing with my hero. And we did this clinic. And then a week later, I got a call from John McLaughlin and Billy had recommended me for that gig. So thanks, Billy. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You've given me a story that I've been able to tell my entire life, of a highlight.
Billy, you have done that to so many musicians where you've not only guided them along the way, you've recommended them to gigs, and even with the rhythm section stuff that we've done. We've been working together, Billy, for over 40 years. And I mean, it's been exciting to see in all this time, the amount of sharing that you do. And now I believe you're going to start doing some lessons that you could take while you have this time. This is a completely exciting time in being able to have some of Billy Cobham's time. This is huge.
Well, in essence, thank you very much, Norman and Nathan. I mean, I've been blessed that I've been in the right place in some ways. Like when I heard Nathan East play, I went, write that down, put that back here somewhere. I think we're going to need this guy. And I was just getting ready to do this thing with McLaughlin, and he was looking for a bass player. And I went, I just heard this kid in San Diego, man. You might want to check him out. And with McLaughlin, you can't push that button too hard. Because if you go, he's the greatest thing since spilt milk, he thinks this cat's lying, So let me just go in the opposite direction. So I had to make him believe that somehow I didn't like him that much, but kind of, it was like a, cloak and dagger, Rocket J Squirrel kind of situation. We finally got through, but that's another story for another day. Oh boy. Anyway, that said, on billycobham.com, my site, I'm just getting started to teach, and Dom's involved in this too, and we haven't gotten it anywhere close to. I'm still trying to put my studio together. Should be having it done in about 2 weeks. That's become something that is just now really starting to hit home. I'm ready for it. And the heavy is to be prepared. I love to, when I watch Carmine play or listen to him, Gregg, Dom, and I remember, not just drummers, but with steps and all of that. It's just been like, I know that bass player out of Chicago. He's playing his buns off. Who is that? Darryl who? And next thing, oh my, mark that down. You never know. And there it is. And we haven't had a chance to play together. I've just been a fan.
Yeah.
And when Darryl's talking to this stuff about Alfonso, on the other hand, I'm just listening and I'm going, good God, man, how you make that stuff feel. And I realize that you are playing your life. You're playing what you've been through. And when it comes to music, it's about finding the right notes to fit the situation. A tall, lanky, thin bass player around 84 years old told me that once. And his name is Carter, but it's not to be mixed up with his son, whose name is Carter. And, the next thing you know, and he always said, I need to find the right note, or I need to get inside this note. And I take it really personally and seriously that when he says that, it could be a blues. It could be just one chord change. He still wants to know if there's an alternative to that note that logically should be played, just to get everybody to listen to what and feel what he's doing. Not so much when he's saying listening, he's talking about, I want you to feel me, man. We were on tour. I put some dates together back in 2004 very quickly with Donald Harrison and James Williams and Ron Carter. And we were in Europe, and we just were doing a sound check and in France somewhere in a festival. And we started just playing the blues. And Ron's playing notes behind the alternative this and that. And finally, Donald's playing a solo, but he's playing what's on the paper. If there was a piece of paper to read, it's the logical point. And then Ron comes from around the corner with something that's as valuable, if not more so, because it's an alternative to what everybody's expecting. And finally, Ron just screaming, Donald. Donald's not listening until Gregg sneezes. And then
God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless Gregg.
Good timing, Billy. Good timing.
But, it's like, the whole COVID thing just started right there.
That's right. I'm healthy, I swear.
All of a sudden, man, Ron just goes, bong, and it says, Donald! And Donald turns around, and I'm waiting for the other foot to drop, and he says, I'm not playing these notes for my health. Listen to me when I'm playing. And it was like a home run for me. We're having a good time, yeah. But all of a sudden, and what I loved so much was that Donald Harrison became he just moved up 2 notches from where he was when we started playing, and he never came back the other way. All of a sudden, he just heard things in another way, and I could feel it. You could feel Ron. And I love that kind of thing, and that's what I want to. I put forward in any consultation, I hate to say lessons, but I mean, I sit down with somebody and I go, listen, let me see how I can help you do something. You know, I'm a student too. I can just only give you what I know from my experiences. Maybe somewhere down the line, somehow that'll fit. And I've seen it. That's the only way that I go. And when I was working with Victor Bailey, and I knew Victor was studying with Ron, or even John B. Williams, way back in the day when we were in 1968, John was still studying with Ron, you know, and we were on the road with Horace, you know, Silver. And so it's all, we don't have anything that's never been done before. We had to get it from somebody. And it's always the simplest stuff that seems the most complex, but it's just that right note, you know, at the right time.
You know, Billy, with that, Billy, Joe Morello once said to me, nobody has it all. We all take from each other.
There you go, man. Otherwise,
told me that years ago, like talking 1970, early 70s. And
when you're laying it down, I'm feeling you, man. And I'm going, well, that's what it's supposed to be. You know, so now I'm moving without even having to move to make myself do it, because that's what the music does. You know, that's that unnamed source, that sixth part of it all. You know, 5 senses. No, it's a sixth one right there. And you start to hear that, and all of a sudden your feet start moving. Next thing you know, you're one step ahead of the sheriff. You know, and you're out the door. You know, there it is.
But how great. There's a great saying that says we use steel to sharpen steel, and it is man that sharpens man. It really is a matter of a great time that we live in right now. How blessed are we to have this level of musicianship opening themselves up to share and teach and consult and coach, whatever you want to call it. It's the transformation of information to lift people to a higher level for them to appreciate more of their passion. But this is a great time to live right now, as challenging as COVID has been. Let me throw this out to the team. What motivates you? Gregg, what motivates you?
Well, I get motivated by listening to my heroes, and Billy Cobham saying that everything's been done before. I just have to reiterate something that I tell people a lot. I was in middle school, and my middle school band director was a drummer, and Mahavishnu had just come out, and he calls me at home. When does your middle school band director call? He got her number. He said, Gregg, I have to play you something. And he drops the needle. He says, you've never heard this before. You're going to hear this drummer named Billy Cobham, and he's going to crash his China cymbal on the 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 4. I said, Mr. Haspatcher, that was his name. On the of 4? You mean on 1? He said, no, listen to this. And we both went, I've never heard anybody crash a China cymbal on the of 4. So Billy, where did you get that from? Because you're my inspiration, man.
It's going to sound funny, man, but I heard that I was working with Randy Weston and Oliver Nelson and Jimmy Owens, I think, and Richard Davis. We were at the Kongsberg Jazz Festival, 1969 or thereabouts. And there was a band playing outside, a Polish band led by a saxophonist, violinist named Michael Urbaniak.
Sure.
And he was wearing this hat that looked like the hat from on the witch from the Wizard of Oz, you know, and with a big handlebar mustache, and he's got a saxophone a tenor sax hanging around his neck, and a violin and bow in his hands. And I'm trying to get all of a sudden the band's burning because he's just looking at people. All of a sudden I heard this thing, bang, 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 bang. I'm going, yeah, that sounds pretty good. You know? I don't know why I just mark it down. Next thing you know, fast forward to Paul's Mall in Boston. And that band was in there. This guy's playing the same. I'm going, man, where'd you get that from? He says, yeah, but you can't have it. It's not yours. You can't take it. Don't steal it. And I'm going, but I just like what you play. Oh, okay then. You know, how much money you got? I said, I don't have any money. He said, okay then, I'll lend it to you.
Oh, man.
Wow, what a story.
What a story.
You know,
Fantastic. Fantastic.
speaking about TV, a quick story. I'll try to tell it quickly. I went and saw Billy Cobham, Georgia Duke Band
Yeah.
at the Ivanhoe.
Mhm.
I don't know what year that would have been. I don't think I was in high school yet. So that would have been 74, 73, 74.
That was 76.
Was it 76? Okay, so I was just in high school.
Wait. Was it with Dougie Rausch in the band?
Alphonse was,
It was, no,
was in the band.
Alphonse was in the band because that was okay.
Yeah. But speaking of Ron Carter, he happened to be sitting right in front of me at the concert.
Was he?
Literally. And so I know who he is, you know, and I, right at the end of the concert, I just kind of very gingerly said, Mr. Carter, I'm trying to learn how to walk. What's the best way for me to learn how to walking bass? And he gave me a lesson in about 3 or 4 sentences right there. He said, very, very slowly. He said, if you have to chain 3 or 4 whole notes together, just so that when you go to the next note, that it follows the harmony, but that it's a different choice than you would have made normally. You just do it slowly. Eventually, you'll be able to do it faster and faster. And he says, when you walk, you will not be walking the same line over again. You'll be walking that, like you're saying about him walking through a blues.
Right.
You know, nobody does what he does, man. Can you imagine walking through a blues using no tonic notes? He does that kind of stuff all the time. But this was literally, that was in about 3 sentences. He gave a blueprint for how to be and not just like walk bass, like, you know, like a cocktail bass player walks, but like as musicians walk. You know.
And
I have a question for Billy.
Yeah, man.
Do you remember the gig we did together? Probably 1969, 68. You were with Dreams.
Staten Island.
That's right. I was with Cactus.
Was it Vanilla Fudge?
Vanilla Fudge. I think it was Vanilla Fudge or Cactus.
Bass player was
Tim Bogert.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember that gig.
I remember that gig. That's where I met you.
Yeah. And then after that, you came to Sheraton to see me, and you had your left hand was completely in a mess. It was like this. It was the fulcrum muscle was infected. And
yes. That was in England. That was in England. That's right.
I was really scared for you. I thought.
Do you remember when I saw you in Europe? You were opening for the Police.
Whoa, Essen. In Essen.
Yeah. Remember? And then me and you were busting Stewart's chops because he kept bandaging up his fingers.
Right.
We kept busting his chops because he was bandaging.
I wanted to stay out of the way of that.
That was funny, but you were doing good. You did a good job doing it.
Oh.
I tell that story a few times.
I must tell you, the power of music, that your memories can be this vivid, going back several decades to remember places and dates and performances and musicians. This is why you live your passion, because every single moment you take it in like it's a lifelong memory. Paul, how lucky are we to have these level of musicians sharing this kind of stories of what it is? This is incredible.
Well, I mean, it's beyond luck. I'm going to say something else because everybody on this panel is an incredible musician. But you know what? Everybody is an incredible human. I don't think you can divorce sometimes a longevity in a career from the type of person that you are. You know, you could be the greatest musician in the world, but if no one wants to play with you or hang around you or be with you, you'll have a short career. And so I think when you get that blend of an incredible musician with an incredible human. And I have stories about nearly everybody on this that I won't share because I won't embarrass you, but, you know, just kindness, acts of kindness that those folks have made, you know, to me or to my kids or to somebody else, and can't be divorced from their musical creativity because it's who they are. So, yeah, and, you know, Dom, you asked what motivates you. And I know this sounds cheesy, but kindness in others, visible kindness, seeing other people do kind things for others is something that motivates me to do better in my life. And I'm honored to be around all you folks, not only because I've listened to your music for my whole life. Carmine, very first drum clinic I ever went to, I was 16 years old or 17 years old, I think, was you in the Royal Exchange Theatre in Manchester, England. It's an odd place because it's a theatre in the round. And so Carmine was in the middle and the seats are like a Coke can. You sit round him all the way at the top and you could look down and watch him play. You know, I struggled for years, Billy, having watched you do something on BBC Two with two other drummers. You had a jazz guy and a rock guy, two young kids, and you did a clinic. And there was one exercise you did that I literally tried to do for a year before thinking I'll catch that later on.
Paul, I bet you would agree, and Dom would too. I know that we talked before about this, but the very first drum book I ever bought was Carmine Appice, Realistic Rock. Between Realistic Rock and Carmine and Billy Cobham Spectrum, man, what an honor to be on this panel. Holy cow, it's a great drum day here.
Wonderful opportunity of being able to interview each and every one of you. And so I ask everyone who's watching this to go further through the YouTube channel of the Sessions panel and seek out each individual interview, because what you have offered has been incredible stuff that really is inspiring. It is as pertinent today as it was when you said it during that interview. So this is extremely important information, and the opportunity that we have that we can get together during this time, this way, through this kind of medium, is really powerful for these next generations to watch, take in and listen, and propel themselves. Let me just go around the horn real fast. Give me a closing comment of what you would think this next generation needs to hear from you, that you have this opportunity. Darryl, I'll start with you.
Next generation needs to hear, in a word, James Brown.
Yeah, baby.
You can take to James Brown, or any of the Kings, BB, Albert, Freddie, all of the Muddy Waters, all of the history. Really, check out the history. Check out the history of whatever you're interested in, whether it be R&B, whether it be jazz, whether it be blues, rock, whatever. Check out the history, understand that. And I guess the other thing I would say is, as much as if you don't respect a kind of music, you will never authentically play that kind of music. For all of those guys who think, oh no, if I can play jazz and I can play funk, it doesn't work that way. You gotta give yourself over to it. You gotta give yourself over to it and approach it respectfully, and then the doors will be open. That's my opinion.
Beautiful. Well said, Darryl. Thank you. And I had the fortunate opportunity for the Sessions panel to interview together Clyde Stubblefield and Jabbo Stark. It's their last interview together. It was one of my most cherished interviews. They were just two beautiful souls. Boy, great advice, Darryl. Thank you so much. Greg, what would you say? What would you tell this next generation?
Well, I'd tell the next generation just a couple of things. We've touched on these already, but try to treat other people the way you wish they would treat you. Not the way they treat you, but the way you wish they would treat you. And just try to be somebody that lifts the vibe up and don't put people down. It's real popular to put people down, and that never gets you anywhere. Don't complain. But I'd say exactly what Darryl said. Just really get into different styles. And I don't love all styles of vocals. I'm not a big Cookie Monster death metal guy. I'm not a big, hardcore rap guy, but I do love all styles of drumming and all styles of bass and keyboards and guitar. Try to really get into different styles of music. But the number one thing, going around the world and getting to do clinics and concerts and meeting young musicians, is everybody and their brother is playing a YouTube cover, and they're posting them playing drums on this version of this song, and then they get all these hits. And I say, when's the last time you played with a bass player? Oh, I never play with bass players. How about a guitar player, a piano player? Kids, I hate to sound like the 61-year-old guy going kids, but kids, play with other musicians. Play with bass players with a heartbeat. If they don't have a heartbeat, don't play with them. Play with other musicians. It's like Ringo said. Ringo told me last tour, he said, why are you always warming up? Why do you work things out? Ringo said, I never sat on my drums and just figured things out. I said, you never just sat on your drum kit and worked things out? He said, I play drums when I play with other people. That's where I learned to play, playing with the Eddie Clayton Skiffle Group, playing with Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, playing with, the Beatles.
Yeah.
He said, I play music with other people with my drums. I don't just sit down and play the drums. And I've never heard anybody ever say that, but that worked for him. So many younger players aren't playing with musicians anymore. So I would say play with other musicians.
Well said. And it obviously worked for Ringo. Fantastic. Nathan, what would you say?
Well, I wanted to steal a quote from Quincy Jones. He said, I learned real early on why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk. So that's, to me, listening is the key to everything. And, a lot of times you'll play something in your bedroom and you'll get it down and you want to play that, you want to stick that in with the band. But if you don't listen and become part of the conversation, all you're doing is just taking your conversation and you're not really, playing what you're going to play around listening. So, I've always asked people, what's the most important thing, and the answer I always get is listen. I ask Cannonball Adderley that, listen as much as you can. It goes on and off the stage,
Great advice, Nathan. Thank you so much. Carmine, what would you say?
Well, I found that most musicians who studied with somebody got to where they wanted to be quicker than when they learned on their own. And but I agree with Greg and what Ringo said. I got the studio here the other day. I came, I started playing drums. I said, oh man, this is boring. It's playing drums. I want to play with something. So I put the machine on. At least I had somebody to play with that had a heartbeat. And also what Greg was saying about being good to each other, being nice to people. I've always tried to take people under my wing. When we did opening bands with Vanilla Fuzz, like John Bonham, when I met him, nobody knew him. I called up Ludwig and I said, I think this guy's going to be big. He wants a drum set like mine. And on my word, they gave him the drum set. And I always tried to do that. I was trying to help the people who were under us when we were on tour. I always hung out with the road crew. I was really nice to everybody. And you got to do that because otherwise people don't want to play with you, Studying, playing with other musicians, all good stuff. And listening, I agree with everything everybody said. Just listening and playing with other musicians. I look at people playing on the internet and they go, when do you play with a band? Play with other musicians. You got to play with other people. That's how you learn, even whether you're playing with bass players and guitar players and, playing with different guys. You learn something from everybody,
Well said, Carmine. Fantastic. Billy, what would you say?
I think it's important when the words listen, that word is a very important word. So listen, yes, you listen. It's interpreting what you've heard, those signals, how you've heard them, how they're phrased. All those things come with time. It's important to play with other people and because they influence the direction, not only them, but every note, every sound around in your environment. Actually, if you interpret it right, translates into who you are going to be eventually as a person, as a musician, as an artist. Present your ideas through your instrument, whether it be a bass or a drum. You play you through those instruments. They don't play you before you play you. You play them. You play yourself. You transfer. That's what you always want to get to, and the level continues to grow. When you set tempos, it should be from the mind. We're all born and blessed with an internal clock. That's the one that wakes us up in the morning without there being an alarm in the house anywhere. But if you got to make it someplace real at a certain time, you're up 15 minutes for sure. And that same clock is the one that lays it down. Once you're comfortable, you can do anything you want to do right on time. And that's where you want to be that kind of person. You want to continue to work towards that goal. And so listening, it's a big umbrella, but under it is interpreting, translating, and
processing,
deciding. It's a big process, and it's a lifetime. You were born it, you develop it, and you die at the end. And you still should never have accomplished it all. But you will get a lot more.
Testify. Amen.
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 Paul, what would you say?
First of all, I would tell everybody to listen to everybody else that's been on this call, because you all are wise. But I think the advice for the new generation is not complicated. It's work hard, be passionate, be kind, treat everybody fairly, and join the union.
Fantastic. Well, very, very well said. You know, it's kind of interesting. We talk about to listen. Well, it's the same amount of letters in the word silent. I think
Wow.
we need to be silent within our soul in order to allow us to listen. My wonderful parents always said, if you are speaking, you're not listening. So that advice that if we can take into ourselves and find a certain level of silence within our heart of where we are, taking great music and really step into listening and allowing that soul to evolve, then I think we'll start to understand a little bit of the successful career that all of you have had and continue to have, which is the magic that you are still going stronger than ever. So I want to thank, on behalf of the sessions, Carmine Appice, Gregg Bissonette, Nathan East, Billy Cobham, Darryl Jones, Paul Quin. Thank you all so much. You guys are great. You guys are inspiring.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you, Dom.
Forever.
We love you.
Bring it on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Dom Famularo here, the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.